Welcome to Pennsylvania in Focus. I'm Kristen Smith. On Tuesday, more than 50 religious leaders sent an open letter to Governor Josh Shapiro asking him to support school choice and educational freedom. Black Pastors United for Education, the nonprofit group, urged Shapiro to make education a nonpartisan issue, boldly dismiss the politics that prevent progress, and comprehensively fund and secure educational freedom and opportunity. Joining me today is the Center Square's Pennsylvania reporter, Anthony Hennon. Anthony, elaborate on the group's concerns about Shapiro's stance on school choice, which his administration would argue is largely positive.
Yeah, so, if this sounds familiar, it should, as this is similar to what we were hearing last year during budget negotiations, where Governor Shapiro at first supported school choice and lifeline scholarships. And then after, Pennsylvania Republicans thought they had a deal, things changed. So this time we're again hearing a lot of focus on education and funding and public schools and charter schools and school choice and scholarships. This time around, we have a group, Black Pastors United for Education, which is made up of more than 50 different religious leaders, pressuring Governor Shapiro to support school choice and educational freedom and really get this stuff worked out. Reverend Joshua Robertson, who is senior pastor at the Rock Church in Harrisburg and founded BPUE, he argued, "When I explain what lifeline scholarships are or explain alternatives, I haven't met one parent, not one, who is in any opposition ever. If adding educational choices negatively impacts our public schools, then I think we need to have a larger conversation about a broken system." And, I don't think this is necessarily anything new in Pennsylvania or nationally. I think this is, again, another iteration of this debate where supporters argue that, kids are trapped in bad schools or unsafe schools, and they deserve the opportunity that other wealthier Pennsylvania families have where they can take their students out and put them in a different school. Whether this will all end up happening remains to be seen. We have a looming budget deadline coming in a few weeks, but it's looking like, again, lifeline scholarships and the debate over school choice is going to be at the center of any compromise or negotiations.
In the discussions around educational policies this budget season, I think, have gotten even more complicated since we had a constitutional mandate to fix the way we fund schools. I think when it comes to both sides of that coin, there are lawmakers who say that means we need to send more money to school districts. There are supporters that say we need to have more educational options. What is interesting, particularly about the pastor that founded this group, is that he lives in a district that is historically underfunded and has a lot of educational outcome issues for its students. And so his perspective on this, I think, is particularly relevant given the larger argument that it is underprivileged and most vulnerable students who are harmed by the amount of state funding that public schools get. So can you talk a little bit more about the founder of this group and what he had to say?
Yeah, I think, these debates really, where a lot of this grows out, there can be ideological debates on, whether we should have just more school choice in general because you think it's a good idea, versus, teachers unions who argue essentially that any money going to education that's not supporting public education is undermining the state. Robertson is interesting because, he said he went to public school all throughout his childhood. And then when he went off into college, he said he read at a second grade level and that he's very successful in football, but his grades were just laughably low. And he said that he wasn't really catching up academically until a bishop in North Carolina, where he's going to school, essentially mentored him and helped him get on track for him to eventually get a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. And he plans to start a PhD program soon. He said, "My life changed because somebody inconvenienced their entire life to make sure I had a chance. The easy thing to do is to say more money equals success. But I think we have a 30-year history in Pennsylvania and beyond that shows that increased funding doesn't necessarily equate to better education." So I think, there's kind of a lot of times, especially during budget negotiations, the big focus is on money, where money is going. But it seems like we at least have some good examples here of just as important as how much money it is is also the question of how the money is being used and who is benefiting from it. And we've unfortunately seen across Pennsylvania, just giving more money to fix a problem does not fix a problem. A lot of this might take, either wraparound services, it might take a change in thinking. And I think that seems to be at root what this debate is over, whether you want the control to fall under traditional educational bounds, or if you want to try to introduce some competition or let parents and students, take a chance on something that'd be different. And that so far has been an impasse for any sort of compromise or moving forward on education. But this question seems to be fundamental, and it's also not going away anytime soon.
Anthony, thanks for joining us today. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com.